Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to this info day on the part of the work program of Horizon Europe that will be dealing with the Climate Neutral and Smart Cities mission. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Philippe Froissart. I'm the head of the Future Urban and Mobility System Unit in DG Research Innovation. And my unit is particularly responsible for the mission secretariat for the cities mission, and also responsible for the preparation and implementation of the cities mission work program in Horizon Europe. So we have a busy schedule this morning for this info session. We will present to you the different topics that we have in the work program 2023 for the cities mission. There will be a number of interventions from my colleagues, and without much further ado, I would like also to show to you the agenda of this session. So we will be here for a little bit more than 1 hour. I will say a few words on the cities mission, and then I will give the floor to Thomas Osdeba, who is the coordinator of the Net Zero Cities project. And if I can have the slide, please. I hope you can see the slides, because it actually disappeared from me from my screen. And then we will go through the presentation of the different topics that we have in the work program 23 for the cities mission, starting with the joint topic for shared zero emission mobility for people and freight in urban areas. Then we will have a presentation of the positive energy district digital twins. Then we will have a presentation of the topic on the association of Ukrainian cities to the climate neutral and smart cities mission. And we will finish with a presentation on the topic on urban greening and renaturing. If you want to ask questions, you will have the possibility to do so using Slido, and you have here on the slide the code for accessing Slido for this specific session. It's hashtag mission info day, and you will be able to select the questions for this session on the cities mission. Maybe from my side, I would like to say a few words on the mission, and starting with the objective of the cities mission, which is probably well known to you all, but I think it's important to remind ourselves of what are the objectives of the cities mission in Horizon Europe. The first objective is to actually deliver at least 100 climate neutral and smart cities by 2030. So we have done this exercise of selecting the cities that are part of the cities mission. This is something that we did last year. We opened a call for expression of interest and invited cities, European cities, to come forward and express their interest in becoming climate neutral by the horizon of 2030. And of that call for expression of interest, we selected 100 cities from EU member states and 12 cities from associated countries that will be those cities that respond to the main objective of the cities mission. But this is not the only objective that we have in the cities mission. We have a second objective, which is to actually use those cities that are part of the cities mission, those 112 cities that are part of the cities mission, as experimentation and innovation hubs to have, at the end of the day, all European cities in a position to become climate neutral by 2050, thereby fulfilling the objective of the European Green Deal. I'm mentioning this because in the next slide, you will see the distribution of the cities that are part of the mission. And the first question that usually we receive when we present the activities of the work program for the cities mission is whether or not only these cities that have been selected in the mission are eligible for the activities that we develop in the work program for the mission, or more cities are available. And because of the second objective of the cities mission, we welcome the participation not only of the 112 cities in the project, in the proposals that will be submitted to respond to the calls and topics that we will present, but all the other cities that are actually committing to the objective of the mission. So our activities are not restricted to the 112 cities that have been selected through the calls for expression of interest, but are also open to other cities in Europe and outside Europe, providing that they commit to the objective of the cities mission. I think it's important to stress, it goes without saying that if you are one of the 112 cities that have been selected in the call for expression of interest, you have a competitive advantage, because through your participation and selection in the cities mission, you have demonstrated your commitment already for becoming climate neutral by the horizon of 2030. And so therefore you have all the attributes to benefit from the activities that we are providing in the mission work program. On this slide, probably you will not be able to read, but this is information that is widely available on the web. You will see the list of the cities that are part of the mission from all member states and associated countries. It's important to notice and to note that all 27 member states have actually cities involved in the mission, some more than others, obviously, depending on the size of the countries. But it's remarkable that we managed to select cities from all EU member states participating in the cities. And actually, it's also important to note that most of the major cities that are in Europe, like the capital cities, are participating in the cities mission. Consequence of that is that the number of citizens that are potentially impacted by the cities mission is quite high. If we add the citizens living in the 100 cities that are in the EU, we reach typically 12% of the population of the EU that will be that are actually living in these cities, and that we will be participating in the development of the climate city contracts that the cities are going to prepare in the coming few months, coming few years. As I said, important also to note that there are cities from associated countries. You have them listed in this slide, and they will be also participating actively and contributing to the implementation of the mission. If I can have the next slide, please. So how are we going to support the implementation of the mission? How do we support the cities that are involved in the mission? We use, to a large extent, the resources that are available for the missions and the cities mission in particular from Horizon Europe. That means that concretely we have a number of support actions and research innovation actions that we will launch, and we have launched already since the beginning of Horizon Europe, to support the implementation of the mission. These activities take the different forms. I think it's important to note the role of an activity, an initiative that will be presented to you very soon, which is the mission platform. The mission platform is supported in Horizon Europe and does provide service and support to the cities that are involved in the mission, the 112 cities, in order to help them prepare what is called the climate city contract. But in addition to the support that we provide through the mission platform, which is presently managed by the Net Zero Cities Consortium, we have also a number of topics that are more sectoral, that address needs of the cities, which could be in different domains, like, for instance, the mobility domain, like the energy domain sector, like also in the planning for cities. And these are translated into actions that we have in the work program 23, for instance, and which will be presented to you later on this morning. So with the mission platform, with those more thematic research activities and innovation activities, we will constitute a portfolio of research innovation actions that will help cities committed to the mission to prepare and deploy their climate city contracts, their climate action plan for reaching climate neutrality by the horizon of 2030. So the core of the activities of the cities mission is to help these cities develop climate city contracts that I mentioned. And eventually, once those climate city contracts are prepared by the cities, and those climate city contracts will be composed of typically 3 sections. One which will list and detail the commitment of the different actors that are involved in this strategy for climate neutrality. An action plan which will detail the different actions to reduce greenhouse gas emission in the cities, and an investment strategy that will explain and detail the resources that are available and that will be made available for the implementation of the action plan. Eventually, once these climate city contracts are ready, they will be reviewed by the Commission services, and at the end of the process, a mission label will be awarded to those cities that should allow them, first of all, which will recognize the work that has been done by the cities to prepare the climate city contract. So it's a recognition of the quality process that has been developed by the cities to reach this stage and develop successfully a climate city contract. And it's also an opportunity through the label to seek support from other programs that may be from the European institutions or from national or regional origins. So there is this opportunity with the mission label to have access to additional support and resources that will help cities implement their climate city contracts. If I can have the next slide, please. So you have here the list of actions and activities that we have introduced in the Work Program 23 for the cities mission, starting with the joint topic, which involve not only the cities mission, but also two partnerships from Cluster 5 of Horizon Europe, namely 2.0 and CCAM, to look at shared zero emission mobility for people and freight in urban areas. Then the second activity that we have concerns positive energy districts, digital twins, which is a follow-up of an ongoing activity that we launched already in the Work Program 21-22. Then we have the topic on urban greening and renaturing for urban regeneration, resilience, and climate neutrality, which is a topic that was developed jointly with the Climate Adaptation Mission, which incidentally will be presented to you this morning, but which will also be presented in the context of the presentation of the work program for the Climate Adaptation Mission. And then we have a specific topic dedicated to the Ukrainian cities that might be interested in becoming associated to the Climate Neutral and Smart Cities Mission. And last but not least, we should, for sake of transparency, also indicate that we have another action in the Work Program 23, which concerns the specific agreement that will be provided to top up the activities of the mission platform. It is not an open call for proposal. It's actually an activity that is restricted in its support to the mission platform. But as I said, for sake of transparency, we ought to present this activity, mention it as well. And because it will be providing resources, additional resources to the mission platform to help cities develop, as I said before, their climate city contracts. Next slide, please. So now on the agenda, we have a presentation from the coordinator of Net Zero Cities. So I don't know if Thomas, you are connected. If this is the case, then I would like to give you the floor so that you can present your slides explaining and presenting the activities of Net Zero Cities, which is basically the mission platform. Thomas, the floor.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, and good morning, Philippe, and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to join you here today at this Information Days. I'm going to give you a very brief overview of Net Zero Cities, the EU mission platform for climate neutral and smart cities. Philippe has talked a little bit about some of the core work of the mission and the mission platform, but I want to provide a broader overview of all the activities in general terms. That'll be useful as we go through the rest of the session today. So if we could go to the next slide. The mission objectives for the platform and Net Zero Cities are fourfold. One is to develop an approach to climate neutral transformation in cities to help cities work systemically in support of the mission. Secondly, to build a platform for cities to use all available services and expertise, solutions, tools, etc., that are available to them through both a combination of online portal and direct support through city advisors and city support groups that provide the required expertise to all of the mission cities. Third, to build the capabilities and ways of working around systemic change. So working with cities on their capabilities and the processes that they'll need, the innovations in governance and policy to enable this to happen. And then finally, to facilitate a pipeline of cities accelerating towards climate neutrality. As Philippe noted, the mission is designed to focus on those cities selected for the mission, but in doing so, to make them a lab to learn how to help all European cities achieve climate neutrality as part of the Green New Deal. Next slide. The support from Net Zero Cities is delivered in the following ways. The mission platform, which I briefly mentioned, and I'll invite people to begin to explore that platform, which you can access through our website. We also have a climate transition map, which is meant to provide a bit of a structure around the process and the methodology for working in a more systemic fashion. I'm going to hit on that in a moment and talk a bit more about it. Climate neutral city contracts, which Philippe spoke about. And then the fourth component, Net Zero City Pilots Program. Through the initial Net Zero Cities funding, we'll be supporting up to 30 pilot city projects to receive funding, but we will be looking at scaling that up as part of the Framework Partnership Agreement through 2023 and 2024 to reach as many of the mission cities as possible, to provide them with the support around their capacity and their capabilities, and to advance learning how to work towards climate neutrality goals and outcomes. Next slide, please. The climate transition map, this presents a very simplified version of a systemic approach to accelerating decarbonization or pursuing climate neutrality at a city level. It's meant to support an iterative process that places a great deal of emphasis on learning as we go through the process. I think for most cities, there's a recognition that we know where emissions are coming from, and we generally know what kinds of actions will be needed. But what we're still learning how to do is how to do that in a timely and effective way to get to climate neutrality outcomes. And this is really a methodology and approach to help cities learn how to do that with our support. It emphasizes creating and testing various initiatives and efforts, policy, project, social innovations, governance innovations, etc. It blends both getting quick progress as well as experimentation to inform bigger structural changes over time as part of the process. Those who are interested will be able to explore this in more detail through our website and through the portal. Next slide. Finally, I just wanted to make a few notes before we get into the process. There are many ways to stay in touch with our work, using social media, registering on the website for the newsletter, etc., and asking for access to the portal and getting signed up there to be able to see the publicly available components of the portal. This work is based on a principle of cities learning together how to pursue the goals of climate neutrality by 2030, as well as helping other cities outside of the mission learn how to follow in this process and achieve climate neutrality more broadly. And so we've built and will be continuing to build a number of mechanisms by which we can share information and people can have access to the activities and the progress. Finally, we'll be collaborating very closely with the projects that are going to be described here following this as part of this session and looking to connect those very directly to the work of the mission as we go forward and supporting that through the platform to the degree that we can. So with that, I'll pause because I know we want to move into the next part of the session. So thank you very much, and I look forward to any questions and discussion as part of this session.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for this very clear presentation. So as you said, we have the opportunity to ask questions to you in particular and to the other speakers. We have a Q&A session which is scheduled at the end of this session towards 12 o'clock, 10 past 12. So I still invite the participants to ask their questions at any time now. If you want to go to Slido, using the access code for these sessions, which is #missions_info-day, and then you select the 100 climate neutral cities button, which is, I think, a yellow button, and there you can ask your questions. So you can ask your questions at any time during this session, and we will collect them and answer them at the end of these sessions, as I said. So Thomas, I think actually I'm looking here at I'm going to do something that was not foreseen in the agenda of this session, but I'm still going to ask you a question that we received on Slido regarding the pilot call that you mentioned, and maybe if you can already answer that question, that will be very good, and then we will move to the presentation of the other parts of the work program. And that question is on the, as I said, the pilot cities. Which cities will be the 30 pilot cities? Have these been chosen at this stage already?
Great, thanks very much, Philippe. So the initial set of pilot cities, the selection will be made in the coming few weeks. The call for the Pilot Cities program was initiated in September with a November deadline. It's been going through review process of the proposals. We received over 100 proposals from cities, including 158 different cities, both in the mission and other eligible European cities. So we're going through the selection process right now. Those cities should be identified within the month. Early February would be our anticipated timeline. So they'll be beginning work quite soon, and those will be publicly announced as soon as possible. We also will be seeking to provide support to additional mission cities for pilot activities. Again, starting in the spring of 2023 and carrying on through 2024 to try to help as many of those mission cities as possible. So stay tuned for more updates and information on which cities are selected for the initial Pilot City program. Thanks.
Thank you, Thomas. Will you be able to stay with us a little bit longer if we have more?
Yes, I will be here. Yeah.
On cities and on what you presented till the end of this session. That would be very kind, very nice. Thank you very much. So now I think we can move on to the presentation of the first topic of the Cities Mission in the Work Program 2023, which concerns the zero emission mobility for people and freight in urban areas. And I would like to ask my colleague Wiebke Krantz-Kocher to present this topic. Wiebke, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Philippe, and good morning to everyone. So indeed, I can spend a few minutes to explain a bit more about this topic. We can go to the next slide already. So the title sounds complicated, but in fact, this mobility topic breaks down into three important parts, which is zero emission, automation, and shared mobility. So these three are the main aspects of this topic. And it is, as Philippe already mentioned, it's a topic that has been co-created with two of the Horizon Europe partnerships, namely the partnership 2.0, so towards zero emission mobility, and CCAM, which is for connected and automated mobility. As we have co-created this topic, we have also contributions to this topic from the different parts of the work program. So we have a total indicative budget of 50 million for this topic, which comes both from the city's mission budget and from the budget of the two partnerships. We're looking to select two projects for this topic, so roughly split in half, about 25 million each. The deadline is the 27th of April. And as concerns the specific conditions, Thomas already mentioned that all the projects, in fact, that will be selected as part of the Cities Mission work program will work closely together with the Cities Mission platform. So this will have to take the form of a memorandum of understanding. So this, of course, is the case for this topic. But in addition, there also has to be a collaboration with the two partnerships that are involved in this, which is, of course, logical. Next slide, please. So in terms of the expected outcomes, we're looking for mobility solutions that are needs-based. So this is very much in line with the emissions approach to have a demand-led, needs-based approach and on co-design. So this is something that I'd really like to stress, that projects have to be co-designed from the very beginning with local authorities and also have to involve citizens and stakeholders. And these solutions have to be then tested and implemented. And of course, they have to contribute to the mission's overall target of achieving climate neutrality in 100 cities by 2030. We're looking for transferable solutions for mobility of people and goods. If you look at the topic text closely, you will see that we are in principle looking for solutions for both, but it is possible to have an emphasis on one of those two aspects, either people or goods. But in any case, the transferable potential has to be assessed also for the respective other sector. We're looking for economically viable solutions that are adaptable and transferable. Also, this is very much in line with what we're trying to do with the mission, to make sure that other cities can also benefit from a solution that has been implemented in one of them. And of course, it shouldn't just be a one-off, but it needs to really generate capacity, both amongst the local authorities and also amongst the mobility systems providers, to make sure that the knowledge is then retained and used further. Next slide, please. So practically, what does that mean? What do projects have to do? They have to establish a co-design process between the local public authorities, between city planners, end users, and then the mobility systems providers, to make sure that the proposed solutions respond to users and the city's needs, and that they can also be well integrated in the mobility systems that already exist in a city. So we'd like to see integrated and shared, automated and zero emission solutions implemented, demonstrated. And these should be open, but resilient at the same time, and replicable, as I said, in line with the ambition of the mission. Maybe just one word in addition to possible use cases. We have deliberately not been more specific in terms of what examples could be these that would fulfill these conditions, because we really would like to be very open to that and not prejudge any possible areas of application that these solutions could respond to. So it's very open, and hopefully also really something that can help both the cities and the mobility operators to work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wiebke. Thank you for your presentation. I run the risk of repeating myself, but today we are presenting the different activities and topics in the work programs. This is an info day. That means that we are here not only to present these activities and topics, but also to answer your questions. So if you have any question, if you have any doubt, if you want any clarification as regard what has been presented to you or what you may have read already from the work program, please do not hesitate. Ask your questions, use the Slido link, and we will answer your questions at the end of these presentations. Maybe we can move to the next topic that we have foreseen for this info day today, which is on positive energy districts, digital twins, that will be presented by Jens Barthelmess. Jens, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Philip. So this builds on work that has been done in the past work programs and also in the mission work program for positive clean energy districts. And this time we're looking at the more digital sides of the districts. So we are actually, this is an innovation action with a total budget of 20 million. We're looking for up to 3 projects between 6 and 7 million per project, and the deadline is 27th of April this year. As Wiebke said, the collaboration with the city mission platform obviously is essential part, and this should be established through a MOU along the line. Next slide, please. So what are the expected outcomes of this kind of projects that we are looking for? So we want to increase the number of city planning actions on design, development, and management of positive energy districts through digital twin tools. They should be, if possible, open standard components that you are used, because we want that this is not just used in one city, but this is something that can be then reused in a standardized way also in other cities. So that's a very important aspect. It should be really a tool that then can be used widely, and where we can also build a community of users that will exchange on how to best use it. When it comes to digital twin, obviously, first of all, you need to have a lot of data. So in not all cases, you will have already all your data streams set up properly. So the beginning of the project should be then obviously an enhanced way of gathering the approaches, the identification, standardization, the different dimensions, be it meteorological, energy, load profile, more soft on the social part, geospatial, whatever. So really identify the right streams and set up the right sensor networks to get them should it not be in place already. You should also look into where to get the appropriate forecasting data for this kind of modeling. So it's not just real time and historical, but also forecasting. Once you have set up the sensor network and got all your data streams running, you should try to integrate also existing smaller scale management systems, like for instance, building management systems that are often already in place, and use existing data streams also from city platforms, from building data and mobility data. They are very often already to some extent gathered in city platforms, and use them for the more detailed modeling in your digital twin for the district. Try to make it a self-learning tool. So use all the capacity of artificial intelligence to optimize these models during their runtime. Now, next slide, please. We come to the scope. The scope, first of all, we are now also in a city mission info day. So the whole thing, this innovation action is supposed to support the city mission. And we want to start at what we consider the smallest representative scale for this, which is the district level. We have to understand the district, we have to measure it, we have to analyze it, we have to model it. And like this, we can get the best picture of the status quo, and we can actually know what and how to tackle this big challenge, because we have a stable base from where we start. We want to have this understanding, but then also on the long run, a management system to this digital twin. So it's not just modeling, but it's a management of the running of the district, but also a system to optimize the system itself, so the self-learning, but optimize also the district over time and space through this tool. So this is very wide ranging already, but you should go also beyond it. It should really, this whole project should serve as a scientific base for a proper reflection of what is necessary to optimize districts to this kind of tools, and to really go in depth also for future developments, what is needed, what can be already delivered, what still has to be developed. It's often in literature referred to the digital twin is a virtual representation, kind of what you see in the gaming world. You walk through streets, you have everything 3D. That's very nice, that's needed, but it should go beyond that. It's about a comprehensive modeling layer where you actually model the local energy system, and to the extent possible, the mobility and transport solutions that are integrated within the district borders, and to use it for scenario analysis. So you can try out many things through these digital twins without actually having to spend the money of trying them out in the real world. So with this scenario analysis, you can actually best identify where to put your money in the future, where the projects have and changes in the district have the biggest, most direct impact, and how to do it most efficiently on a time scale. So like this, once you have developed this digital twin for one of the European cities, you need to do an economic impact study. What can be actually positively influenced through the use of a digital twin like this, but also the risks. And you need, obviously, as this is very heavily data reliant, a data security strategy for this. And this should be well thought through. Then you will use the digital twin for evidence-based decision making. So really that means you have to involve and you have to train the public and private actors that are the most important in this decision chain. They must be well familiar with this kind of tool. And then you can use it also for the co-creation, communication, and public consultation of the wider audience. And you should consider, obviously, also the great possibility of having a digital twin, which is through involving people through gamification in the co-creation approach. At the end, you should obviously come up with all your learnings, put them into recommendations and practical guidelines, and you should not start from scratch. That's again, just to be underlined, there is a lot of work already on data spaces outside, especially for smart cities and for energy. The data spaces are being developed, but I mean, really, the call makes reference to several initiatives that you absolutely should take into consideration, and to make the work of the city's mission and your work more efficient. The collaboration, obviously, and just can't be stressed enough, with the city's mission platform is essential for this project. And with this, I thank you very much and hand over back to Philippe. Thank you.
Thank you, Jens. That was very clear. So again, I remind the participants that they can ask questions on Slido. We are starting to receive a number of questions, very much at the moment focusing on the first topic that was presented by Wiebke, but I can see now also that there are some questions on positive energy districts, digital twins. So if you can stay with us till the end of this session, you will be able to answer these questions. I'd like now to move to the presentation on this topic, which focus very much on Ukrainian cities, and invite Wiebke to take the floor.
Yes, thank you, Philippe. Indeed, we have a topic in the work program that is about associating Ukrainian cities to the city's mission. And I stress right from the beginning that it is about associating Ukrainian cities. So the idea is not to make them become full members of the city's mission and to expect a timeline as the very ambitious timeline as we have set for the achievement of the goals of the city's mission. So we're not asking Ukrainian cities to sign up to any specific timeline in 2030 or 2050, but the idea is to really foster a collaboration with the city's mission and to allow Ukrainian cities to also benefit from the learnings of the city's mission. So if we go to the next slide, please. This is a coordination and support action with a budget of 5 million euros. We're looking for one project for the entire budget. This topic has a slightly later deadline with a submission date by the 6th of September this year. And again, the collaboration with the city's mission platform as one of the key parts of making sure that there are links between all the different projects and the work of Net Zero Cities. Next slide, please. So in terms of the expected outcomes, we would like this project to identify a core group of Ukrainian cities that would commit to a climate neutrality target without necessarily a specific timeline, but just working towards climate neutrality and including in the very serious and necessary work of reconstruction. So here we're not looking for Ukrainian cities to apply directly to this call, but we would rather look for a project that would reach out to those cities. So we want to make this sort of threshold or entrance burden as low as possible to allow really Ukrainian cities that are under a lot of strain to allow them nevertheless to hopefully benefit from this action. The idea is to help accelerate a systemic transition to climate neutrality of cities in Ukraine by preparing the local authorities to meet also the objectives of the European Green Deal. So with a stress on preparing. So the idea is not to really implement solutions at this stage, but to really prepare the journey for the future. And at the same time, to also increase the visibility of the EU and its cities, and to engage the cities that are part of the city's mission in twinning and teaming activities with like-minded Ukrainian city partners. And we really have an impression that there's a lot of interest also from inside the EU to work with Ukrainian cities on a collaboration. Next slide, please. In practice, what do we have in mind for this? So the project would first map the cities in Ukraine that would be interested in working towards a target of climate neutrality at some stage. and then to identify and support a number of these cities in developing their strategy for climate neutrality. That's the first part. And the second part is then to really facilitate, to foster twinning and teaming between these Ukrainian cities and like-minded cities that are involved in the cities mission. Of course, very much with the cooperation of the mission platform, that will be a very crucial anchor point for this. And we would like to then facilitate the exchange of good practices with Ukrainian cities, between them, and also with cities in the EU and also with other cities in Ukraine. I think that was the last slide already, if I'm not mistaken. Then I'd be happy to.
You are not mistaken.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this presentation, Wietke. And as you said, very important to stress the role and participation of Ukrainian cities in this topic, which is a little bit different than what we foresee for cities in the EU, needless to say, for reasons that are well known to us. So I'm looking at the time. I realize that the different speakers have been very good and respected their time slot. So we are within the time allocated to us for presenting the different activities that we have in the Cities Mission Work Program. And I'd like to move now to the last speaker, the last intervention that we will have. To present the topic on urban greening and renaturing for urban regeneration, resilience and climate neutrality. And I will ask my colleague Christos to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Philippe. Good afternoon to everybody. So next slide, please. So as it was stated at the beginning from Philippe, that is a topic from a joint call. That means it is a topic co-created and co-funded from two missions, the Cities Mission and the Climate Adaptation Mission. So we had to design the topic in a way to address the objectives of both of them. That means simultaneously mitigation, climate mitigation and climate adaptation. As you know, there is robust evidence that greening and renaturing, so green corridors, urban parks, nature-based solutions, green facades, green roofs, so, these kind of solutions which are living ecosystems. I have to underline that. They can contribute to address both mitigation and adaptation. So we're not talking about solutions, it's greenwashing, it's really, as I said, bringing nature to cities, so bringing living ecosystems that they co-evolve together with the urban context. So the total budget for this topic is 40 million, so 20 million it's a mission. We hope to fund 3 or 4 projects, and indicative budget is 10 to 12 million per proposal. They are very, very challenging topics. We have to recognize that. I have not going, to put a very extensive text in the slides because you have the text of the call. So just try to highlight some of the salient issues, if you like, and then of course I will be happy to reply to your questions. So deploying these green renaturing solutions, it is, as we said before, it has how it is carbon sequestration, so it reduces the atmospheric content of the CO2. Then it can mitigate the floods, it reduces the runoff, it creates also it can mitigate the ambient temperature, so the green island effects. So as simultaneously addresses both issues. But because those solutions also they deliver many co-benefits, so in terms of cleaner air, cleaner water, cleaner soil, so it has a lot of benefits to health and also to the well-being, social cohesion, because these green spaces enables people to meet between them, to interact between them, to socialize, if you like, and also environmental, economic benefits. Why? Because we know that green cities, they act as a pole of attraction of economic activities, so it has a lot of economic benefits as well. So outcomes, well, there is a big list in the text. For me, I try to highlight 2 quantifiable outcomes, and that is that every city should try, through the interventions that they will make, by creating newly created public spaces, to increase the coverage of the green spaces by 25% as compared to the overall area of the regeneration area. Now, also there is, we hope that it's going to increase the satisfaction of the cities, because by improving the well-being, if you like, there you will need probably to include capacity from social science and humanity in order to enable you to assess the impact to see whether this 20% threshold has been achieved. Next slide, please. So specific conditions, and the first one is, as a matter of fact, an eligibility criterion. That means that each proposal, each action must include pilot demonstrations in at least 4 lead cities, accompanied by at least 4 replicator cities. That means that at least 8 cities situated in different member states or associated countries. That is an eligibility criterion. These cities, we want to be diverse geographically, so to cover, as much as possible the entire area of Europe, and then to be diverse also in terms of socioeconomic conditions, environmental conditions, climatological conditions, and the rest of that. Now, we don't want those cities to act in a vacuum. We want them to be closely linked to the mission family, if I may say so. That means that even beyond the consortium, beyond the 8 cities that would be involved in a particular project, how they can be linked to the other cities that are involved in the city's mission. The best way to do that is, of course, through the mission platform, the Net Zero Cities. So in order to formalize somehow this collaboration, the projects, they will have to sign a collaboration, a memorandum of understanding at the very start of the project. And please make sure that you put resources aside in order to facilitate this kind of collaboration. And then in addition, of course, clustering activities have to take place between the projects that they will be selected from this topic, but as well as other projects selected within the overall mission context. Now, we have given just some examples of possible areas that can be targeted through this regeneration. So social housing districts, deprived districts, abandoned areas, brownfields, or derelict industrial sites that you want to repurpose them in order to, because the industrial activities have been, are not there anymore, in order to repurpose that to make the area again economically active. Now, because it involves investments from the part of the cities. If you want to install those kind of green solutions, you have to invest money, of course. And of course, you do not expect that Horizon Europe is going to give money to the cities to become greener. So the cities have to find own resources elsewhere, for example, through structural funds. But Horizon Europe will contribute partly to the investments that you will have to make for the installment of these green solutions, provided that the claim part from Horizon Europe should not exceed 20% of the total eligible cost for the city. Next slide, please. Now, what is the scope? Well, is to set collaborative platforms in all 8 cities that will be involved in the proposal. So these platforms is for co-creation, so to co-create the regeneration, rehabilitation, repurposing plans, involving all possible, all relevant actors, so authorities plus stakeholders, societal actors, private sector, research institutions, in order to co-create these plans for deploying always greening and renaturing approaches. Because it has to serve the objectives of 2 missions, so the territorial entity for the city's mission is the city, of course, but the territorial entity for the climate adaptation mission is the region, and we have to make sure that the plans are compatible across the scales, so the city and the region. We have to make sure the applicants have to make sure that there is a continuous and seamless involvement of all the competent regional authorities, so the authorities that are responsible to design their climate adaptation plans, which is at the regional scale, as I said, in order to ensure compatibility and coherence across the scales. Now, what is the difference between the lead and the replicator cities? All of them have to deliver urban regeneration, rehabilitation, repurposing plan at the end of the project. However, the lead cities must, and I underline the word must, in addition, implement the solutions that have been co-created, co-decided during the process of the consultation. So it's not only the plan that at the end of the day probably will not serve very much because it will be put in the drawers of an administrator or the mayor and it will be forgotten afterwards, but the solutions have to be implemented during the execution of the project. So you have to make sure that the proposal, there is a dedicated work package that somehow describes or provides an outline of what are the plan solutions that you want to do, and then somehow foresee, envisage, make provisions, if you like, for where the money will come from. And last but not least, in addition to the process, this consultation, co-creation, it has to be, of course, some development of innovation in order to make the urban planning and design as effective as possible. Here I'm talking about models, I'm talking about visualization techniques. So how to enable the stakeholders to visualize how the solutions will look like, how to prioritize them, how to assess their impact in time. So that is also part of the proposal. So I will stop here, and then, as I said, I will be pleased to reply to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christos, and thank you to you and all the other speakers for respecting the time slot that was allocated to them, because now we have plenty of time for questions and very likely answers. So I remind you that if you have any question, you should go to Slido, use the access code for this session, which is #missionsinfoday. Then you select the city's mission and you can ask your questions. We have received quite a number of questions already, and you have them listed on the screen. And we will start with the questions in order of popularity. So there are actually two questions that relate to the presentation that Wiebke made on the first topic on mobility. So I will ask Wiebke maybe to take the floor and answer these questions. Do you want to answer the first question, Wiebke?
Yes, sure. So the question is, does a city have to be the coordinator of this project? This is about the shared and zero emission mobility. Can replication cities claim a certain budget for implementing their objectives? So a city can be the coordinator, but does not have to be. This is not specified. So it is an option, but it's not necessary. And can replication cities claim a certain budget? This is up to the proposals. So it depends on how you argue that you will achieve your objectives, and then this is not further specified. So it is possible, depending on the objectives. That was the first one. Should I carry on with the second one straight away?
You are very popular.
Yes, regarding
the
regarding the demonstration pilot project elements for testing, monitoring. In lead cities, are construction and equipment cost eligible? Again, there are no particular rules for this specific topic. This depends, I think, on the general rules of Horizon Europe. I don't know, maybe Philippe would like to add something more on that.
No, standard rules, the same apply actually to the next questions on regarding the contribution and participation of for-profit public companies. But I think these are specified in the annexes of the work program. So there is no specific rule or no rules that are beyond the rules that are already applied to the other parts of the program. I don't know, Octavia, if you want to come in there and confirm or add anything to this?
Yes, I can confirm that for-profit organizations, definitely they are eligible for funding. And then with regards to the percentage and how much funding they can get, please have a look at General Annexes, General Annex G. Yeah, the funding if you are referring specifically to the topic in the transport part and in the energy part, the topics that are clearly funded with the city's mission. In general Annex G, it is written that innovation actions have 70%, except for non-profit legal entities where the rate is up to 100%. So yeah, they are eligible, and according to Annex G, they have a funding rate of 70%, the for-profit organizations.
Very good, Octavia, for this answer. Indeed, very useful. Maybe if we can move down to the questions that we have and probably flag the two questions that we have addressed already. Again, a question on the first topic on mobility 0101. Is it necessarily required that all the use case of the planned projects are carried out in mission cities? And there are quite many questions related to that. Incidentally, the participation or the eligibility of cities and the role of these cities for the city's mission in some of these topics. So maybe Wiebke, you want to take that one?
Yes, sure. So the whether it is necessary that these projects are carried out in mission cities, as Philippe said at the beginning, the calls are open not only to mission cities but to all cities. But of course, projects have to show how they contribute to the objectives of the city's mission. So then the mission cities are really in a pole position to justify how they're contributing. But not necessarily mission cities. Maybe also good to clarify that in this joint topic with the partnerships, we are looking for 2 lead cities and 4 follower cities. I think there was also some doubt about that. I saw another, yeah, exactly. Exactly, I saw it. I saw it appear and then it disappeared again. Maybe I take that as well, if you like. Yeah, so 50 million is a huge budget. Can you explain the rationale for it, and if you have preference for a specific type of partner to lead this? So as I said, for the second part of the question, this is open, doesn't have to be a city, but can be. And 25 million indeed is a huge budget. But if you look at the text description, this is really about testing and demonstrating in real environment the solutions that are being proposed. So it's not a feasibility study or preparatory work, but it's really to see how this works in real life. So that might, of course, then need quite major work also on the technological parts of solutions, maybe some modifications on existing vehicles or new developments in that direction, or also in terms of how the system interacts with the different parts of the mobility system in a city. So these are really major works that will have to be carried out, and that is why we have decided to assign quite a large budget for this.
Thank you, Vic. I will give you time to breathe and ask questions to Jens regarding the Positive Energy District digital twins and the number of demos that are expected to be supported in the proposals. You want to take that question, Jens?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Philip. So it's quite straightforward. Actually, it says in the scope part, develop and test a digital twin of potential positive clean energy in a European city. So, I mean, we're asking straightforward for one city to do this, but there's obviously, I mean, also because this is not 25 million, but this is 6 to 7 million per project. But obviously there's this aspect of reusability, of open solutions, of using this then in other cities. So having already an eye on how this replicability, this reuse in other contexts can be secured for the future would obviously, help if you then in your project can already have kind of fellow cities, of observer cities, of collaborations that go beyond your city, also because it's always good to have this European aspect. But the full-blown digital twin has to be delivered in one city in a district. And then I saw already in Slido there was also this. I'm mixing this directly up. There was the question of for the smaller cities, how big is the district? Can it be also the whole city? I mean, it's as big as you can handle. That's the thing. So it says specifically project defined district borders. That really means it's not an existing administrative district in that sense, but what you think is best to be included. Obviously, there's something like a critical size, so it can't be too small, but if it goes too big, it might actually water down the whole thing, and you might have problems with your data acquisition and streams. But really, it's up to the project to see. I think 6 or 7 million is quite substantial for this kind of work, but really make it impactful. And if you can include others that are kind of in the process and help you maybe also to develop, but the whole thing really has to be just in one city.
Very clear. Thanks. Wiebke, I'm sorry, I have to come back to you. There is another question regarding the topic on mobility. Someone is trying to negotiate already the scope of the proposal that they might be preparing regarding the conditions that we want to apply to the call, whether it should be automated, whether it should be both passenger and goods. Can you clarify?
Yes, of course. So does it have to be automated? I mean, it is purposely done as a joint topic between these three partners. So between 2.0, CCAM, and the city's mission. And of course, so the CCAM part has to be visible in the proposal. So automated connectivity aspect have to be a part of that. Cover both passenger and goods. There is, so in principle, the effects on both passenger and goods will have to be studied, but there is a part in the text that says that it is possible to focus on one of those, so to have a primary focus on one of those areas.
Thank you. I think Jens answered the question on the definition of district and the size. Unless you want to add anything to that, Jens, I believe we have answered that question. And then again, to you, Wiebke, the eligibility or the participation of non-mission cities and whether they can be eligible for funding. You want to take that one?
Yes, indeed, they are eligible, also non-mission cities.
Okay. Yes, question to you, Jens, on the economic impact studies of the digital twin.
Yes, so it's really the normal kind of what would have been. I mean, how much added value can the use of this kind of digital twin actually bring? So that is what you should. I mean, we're not just doing it for the sake of developing it. There should be an added value, an impact, but we want to also know how the city can profit from using this by not simply doing maybe a more conservative trial and error approach, but by really looking forward, doing this kind of forward analysis with scenario. So that's what should go into this economic impact study, because we are rather convinced that the use of a proper setup digital twin can save the city a lot of money, but also can make the money that is used be used much more efficient with higher impact.
Thank you. Then we have a question on citizen satisfaction, which is not related to any specific topic, unless.
No, Philippe, it is.
Yes, Christos, you want to come in?
Yes, it is clearly mentioned as one of the quantifiable outputs of the urban greening. So how to measure that? Well, I guess that you have to address that to people with expertise in social science, humanities, behavioral sciences. It is them who have to come up with a methodology. How I guess surveys at the beginning of the project and then surveys close to the end of the project. But I'm not a social scientist, I have to say.
Okay. But as you said, it's very much left to the proposals to explain and to convince the evaluators that indeed this aspect will be well implemented in their proposal, in their project.
Precisely, yeah.
And there is a question regarding the size of the partnership and the number of lead cities and follower cities that can be involved in the proposals. I suppose this could apply to you, Christos, or possibly Jens as well.
How big should be the partnership? Huh? Well,
it's the consortium more than the partnership.
Yeah. So as I said before, it is an eligibility criterion to have at least 4 lead cities situated in 4 different member states and associated countries, and 4 replicators, again situated in 4 different member states or associated countries. That is an eligibility criterion.
Okay.
If I may, Philippe, maybe this also relates to the joint topic with the partnerships, actually,
Okay.
because there we're looking for 2 lead cities and then 4 follower, and then we actually put it together, follower/replication cities. So this is a minimum requirement, at least 2. It can be bigger than that.
Okay. Maybe a question to you, Vipke, concerning Ukraine. Where to find Ukrainian cities able to participate and how to be sure that with the current and future situation, they can still be able or not to continue.
Yes, indeed. So already in the topic text, we are giving a few leads for that, because there are already a number of ways of cooperation established with Ukrainian cities. So a number of city associations, for example, and other programs, EU programs and other programs already have quite strong links with Ukrainian cities, also other global initiatives, for example. So it would be one possibility to build on that work and then to identify cities based on that. But there are other ways, of course, as well. So this is not prescribed exactly how it can be about. But I think there is quite a lot of work already that has been done and that could be built on. And of course, the big question, the current and future situation, how to be sure that these cities will actually be able or not to continue the work. Yeah, I think we are all asking ourselves that. And as I said, this project is not about the implementation of actions. It's about preparing strategies, about preparing measures and action plans towards climate neutrality that should stay relevant and stay applicable for a longer time. But we will see how this goes, and also in terms of the maybe the call deadlines and possibly a project duration, we'll have to see. I think we can be quite flexible in that to see that we can adapt to how the situation evolves, and then see if maybe we need to prolong this or that phase as we go along.
Okay, thank you. Then we have a question on pilot projects, innovative pilot projects. I will take that one actually. I think here we have to make the distinction between different configuration, namely the tasks and the ambitions of the cities that are part of the mission, namely those cities that are committing to be climate neutral by 2030. And there it is true to say that the challenge is maybe less on the identification of innovative solutions rather than the deployment of existing solutions because of the timetable. And we understand fully that in this context, for the cities that define their strategy for climate neutrality at the horizon of 2030, the solutions that will be used are likely to come from projects that have already taken place and have already been supported. But as I explained in my introduction, this is only one of the objectives of the mission. And we also have to cater for the needs of cities that have a longer time scale for preparing and implementing their climate neutrality strategy. And in that context, it's very likely that there may be the need to develop and support development of innovative ideas, innovative solutions that can be done through the projects that we will be supporting in this specific framework program for the cities mission. So we have indeed 2030 as a target for the cities mission, which very likely means that it's about, in this case, in the action plan, deployment of existing solutions. But if we want also to cater for the needs of cities that have a longer time scale, then there is also the opportunity to use the framework program for research innovation to develop these new solutions through innovative pilots. There was a question on the mission platform, and the question was whether this platform can be used in the preparation of the call. I may leave that to Thomas, but I can already answer that it's not advisable to use the mission platform for that purpose. The mission platform serves a different purpose and is not there to help potential proposers to prepare applications for the calls that we have in the work program. But maybe Thomas, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, just I think that's good clarification, Philippe. The thing I would add is that there are, given the nature of these calls and their objective of advancing the mission as well, I think there's information that would be available from the website that is relevant to you as you prepare your call. But as Philippe notes, the platform itself wouldn't be useful for helping you prepare that. In fact, we need to expressly avoid getting involved in preparing those applications. So, but you may find that there's information from Net Zero Cities in the platform that is relevant to you as you prepare your materials.
Thank you. I'm looking at the list of questions. Regarding again the mobility topic, maybe Wiebke, you want to take that question on intervention. If interventions are expected to be co-created, they cannot be fully described and budgeted in the proposal. Any guidance on how to structure?
Yes, that's a good question. Of course, it means that you will have to plan for a certain flexibility because you won't be able to set everything in stone from the beginning if the process is being co-created. So I think the rules allow for that, for a certain flexibility. Yes, so I'm not sure we can say much more about that, but I think you'll have to then describe how you go about the co-creation process, and then try to already maybe set out how that could develop then in the to be fully described.
Thank you. Question regarding cities in the UK. Unless I'm mistaken, the conditions regarding the participation of UK entities has not changed and is still the same in the Cities Mission Work Programme than in other parts of the programme. That means that we consider entities from the UK as if the UK was potentially associated to the framework programme. But maybe Octavia, you want to take that question?
Yes, indeed. So at this moment, we consider the UK entities involved as until now, as they are preparing for the association. More, let's say, discussions on how this should happen if the proposal is selected for funding. So more discussion on how the UK entities are going to be involved concretely in the project is discussed during the grant agreement preparation. So at the moment, we treat them as it happens before in Horizon 2020 even. So as if they were in a pre-association phase, more or less. Yeah.
Thank you, Octavia. Then question regarding eligibility criteria regarding the size of the cities that can participate. Who wants to take that question? Wiebke, maybe?
Philippe, I don't think that any of the topics have put any.
We did in Horizon 2020 when we launched the call for the pilot for the mission platform, but we did not include any specific conditions in the work program 23.
No, indeed.
Yeah.
Questions on positive energy districts? Jens, if you are still around. It seems to cover two different stages, planning and operation. Do you expect both to be implemented in the same positive energy district pilot, more than one city?
So these are several questions. Yeah, so both in the same city, and as answered before, there's one core city. If you want to associate others with a less workload, always welcome, but both planning and operation should take place in one main city.
Thank you. So we are slowly coming to the end of the questions that have been put in Slido. There is a question regarding urban agriculture. I don't know who wants to take that question. Thomas, because it relates to net zero cities.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. Urban agriculture, I would envision being a part of an overall activity as it relates to cities in the mission and participating in climate neutrality. I think that the impacts it has on climate emissions reductions are somewhat indirect and modest, but I think it's a core component of what we should be seeing. But I don't think I would be seeing that as a feature for any of these calls or a top priority activity. However, we see many cities who are advancing urban agriculture within their overall strategies, particularly around circularity and beginning to address Scope 3 emissions as well, which sometimes cities are doing as part of the mission, even though the Scope 1 and 2 is the primary focus of the city's mission at this time. So you can consider that as part of it. I would say to respond to any of these calls, it wouldn't be a top feature, but it could be a component of a much bigger approach.
Indeed, thanks, Thomas. Then a question also back to Wiebke regarding the elements, the key elements, so the core elements for the mobility topic. Listing here, do you have shared mobility, zero emission, and I suppose the last one is people and goods?
Automation.
Automation, yes. Sorry.
that was the test.
That was a test on me. I failed miserably. My apologies. Again, a question to you regarding Ukraine, Wiebke. How many cities? Is there any target? Is there any criteria regarding the number of cities from Ukraine that we would like to see in the consortium? Or
no. This is not. Sorry. Sorry, I missed the last part, Philippe.
No, I was just listening the question and regarding the number of cities or not that we would like to see in the consortium.
Yes. No, this is not prescribed. We would like to keep this flexible because, as you know, there are many uncertainties about this. So this is purposely left open.
Okay, so maybe again a question on UK cities. In the case that a UK city is included and the association is not finalized, are missions included in the UK guarantee funding? I'm not sure I understand the last part of the sentence. But I mean,
Philippe,
yes.
I can give a hint on that. From the experience of the already signed innovation actions projects that are starting now in January, where we had UK entities involved, yes, UK cities seem to be covered by the UK guarantee funding. However, I would advise that you check this with the, of course, UK authorities, and if there is still a national contact point for Horizon Europe in UK, then it could be good to also check with them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And the last question that we have concerns again the mobility topic. This seems to be very popular.
No, this is the joint topic with adaptation.
Yeah, that is the joint topic with the adaptation. So the 20%, it is 20% of the total eligible cost of the project, but also of the total eligible cost of each lead city. We want balanced participation among the lead cities. We don't want one lead city to use, a massive amount of the overall budget for them to install their green solutions. So it has to be as I said, 20% of the overall budget for the project, but also 20% of the overall budget per lead city.
Thank you, Christos, for this clarification. Very useful. And I think we've gone through the questions that were put by the participants on Slido. We have exhausted all the questions, and we are perfectly on time since it is 22:01. I don't see any more questions from Slido. As I said, we are on time, so it's time to close this info session. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the speakers for their presentation and for answering all the questions that you put on Slido. I would like to thank the participants for their contribution and the questions that they have put. And let me wish you a very good afternoon. Thank you very much for your participation. Bye-bye.
Hello? Hello?